Hey, what's up guys and gals? It's me, your old buddy Mr. Moose, back with another edition of Air Hauler 2. Yeah, you guys really seem to enjoy the initial episode and got a lot of positive comments on it. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a series on it and see how it goes. See if we can build Moose Air into a thriving air cargo company. Now, since we did that video, I have called a couple of loads on this account. Basically, that beef ice run over to Georgia, I went and ran that. So we got a little bit of money in the coffers. If we look at our finances, we come to financial overview, you can see company cash, $106,000 and some change. We've made almost $7,000 in 2 runs. And if we look over to the ledger, you will actually see where our expenses are and our positive cash flow. Expenses $328 on our test on our type rating flight. Then we bought a little fuel to do our load of beef out to 83 Gulf Alpha. That yielded $3,770, and we had to pay $4 roughly in landing fees. Then we turned around, turned and burned, and came back with a load of ice. Back to Kilo Juliet Kilo Alpha, which is our home base. Landing fees on that were $14.23, but we made $3,150 on the flight. So we're doing pretty good. So today we are going to continue on. We'll find a couple of jobs and get flying. And we'll also talk a little bit about the game, answer a few questions that came up in the last video. The first was about the aircraft, and also a couple of other versions of flight sims. As far as I know, this does not work with X-Plane 10. Somebody asked me about that. From the setup, I obviously just saw FSX and prepared 3D, so saw nothing about X-Plane 10. So sorry about that. But you should check and verify that it doesn't work with X-Plane 10, because I am by no means an expert on any of this stuff. As far as aircraft, starting aircraft, in the video I showed you the breakdown for if you start easy, medium, hard, and the aircraft associated with that. That was for FSX. The aircraft associated with that in Prepared 3D is going to be a little bit different, because the base aircraft in Prepared are a little bit different, so do be aware of that. And then some questions arose as far as, can you add in additional aircraft into the game so you're not stuck with flying just stock FSX planes. And you can add those in. All you had to do is come up to management, click on aircraft management, and then right here it says import aircraft. You click on that, it'll bring up interactive for you to find your aircraft, and it pretty much already finds whatever's in your FSX folder. So then you can go ahead and import that in. When you do import it in, it's going to give you, it's going to bring up an aircraft data sheet, which is basically this, just so you can verify your data stats on it. So if you do import in a plane, make sure you've got your specs for the plane handy, just so you can compare like cruising speed, range, all that good stuff, so that you can make sure that your numbers mesh up with what the numbers are in the game. Couple of the ones that I've imported in, I've got my Coronado PC-12 in here. Eventually, as soon as I get some money up, I'm going to start using that. I love that turboprop. It's a outstanding cargo plane, as well as like light executive plane. And then I've also got the C172R trainer from A2A in here. So if I want to use it, I can use it. The only problem with that though is, I wish there was a way I could come in here and just tell the game, look, I own this C172 trainer from A2A. Let me fly it instead of the stock A2A and just swap them out. It doesn't let me do that though. The only way I can fly that plane as part of my company fleet is to sell off the Cessna 172 that I have and then repurchase that one down there. Unfortunately, that means I'd be just about broke, because looking at our financials and looking at this plane, the plane is $184,000. If I go into company info and fleet and I sell this aircraft, and if you look, I've got the aircraft here. If I go to sell aircraft, I only get $92,000 by selling that, which means if I combine that, I could buy the other the other Cessna, but I'd be just flat broke. And that's not a good thing. So I don't want to be flat broke. I do want to have some money in reserve for when something happens. But yeah, I mean, even if I did sell it off, though, I mean, if you're really into the grind and you're just absolutely want to make sure that you have the aircraft that you want to fly, there's no reason you should be able to do that. I mean, if I did combine the money and sell it off, I'd probably have about $10,000 in the bank still. And this $13,000 monthly overhead, that's not due until a month from now. Keep in mind that the times that are within Air Hauler are based on your system clock, and 24 hours is 24 hours in a real day. And then a month is a month. If you start your company today on the 23rd, which is when I'm recording this, if you started your company on June the 23rd, you wouldn't know this monthly payment until July 23rd. So you'd have 30 days to play the game before you actually had to do your next monthly payment. So that's pretty cool. I like that about the game. But then as you can fly, it's weird. Everything that's within the game is based on your current system clock and real world time. But when you go into Flight Sim and fly, you can fly whenever you want. It could be July and you're playing the game in July. But when you go into Flight Sim and you're flying Alaska, you could set it up to fly it in the middle of, December. And it still doesn't matter just as long as you do the flight. The software is just looking for you to do the flight within the time parameters that the software tells you to do the flight. So it's that might be a little bit confusing, but just keep in mind that if it tells you have 1 day, 1 hour and 40 minutes to complete the job, that means you got the next couple of days to do it. You've got about 26 hours to do that in your real life, not in game time. So just keep that in mind. So the time frames in this are real. So that's the one thing I wanted to stress. All right. So let's stop babbling and actually do some flying. So we're coming over here to the job map. I've got a located job. I can click on my airport that I'm at, which is Kilo Juliet Kilo Alpha. That's where we're starting off at. And the first thing I've found easiest to do when I come in here looking for a job is come to distance, sort by distance, and then start looking for jobs that are the exact same distance apart. Like I've got this 272, and see if the in and out matches the same location, which they don't. But this 272 does. All right, the 272s do match. So what I mean by that is I got an outbound leg, which means it's leaving Kilo Juliet Kilo Alpha and it's going to 02 Gulf Echo, and it's hauling building materials. So my outbound flight would be that for $1,820. And then I have an inbound, which means it's coming back to me from the exact same airport, 02 Gulf Echo, back to Kilo Juliet Kilo Alpha with shrimp for $4,028, which is absolutely funny that you would fly building materials to the middle of Mississippi and then fly shrimp from the middle of Mississippi to the Gulf Coast. That cracks me up. Anyway, so that's an interesting little run. That would make about 6,800 on that flight. That's 272. That's a mighty long flight though, just to make about $5,800. At the same time though, I'm seeing another route up here that the distances match on, and that's this one right here, Kilo Juliet Kilo Alpha to Kilo Mike Echo India. Building materials out for $4,340. And then on the inbound from Kilo Mike Echo India back to Kilo Juliet Kilo Alpha, cosmetics for $4,290. That's the run we want. That's $8,500 round trip, and it's only 134 miles. That's a nice little run. That basically is going to take us up here to Meridian, Mississippi. And if we look, the runway on that is ILS, which is nice, which means I'm going to be running into some nice asphalt pavement to land on with lights, and I ILS. So that's pretty good. No more grass fields. We definitely want to take that job. So to take the job, I'm going to take the outbound leg first. And let's look at the times. The other thing is, once you find the jobs that you like, make sure your times. The outbound leg, which is the one I'm going to fly first, expires in 1 day, 20 hours and 9 minutes. The inbound lane, which is the one that I'm going to turn and burn and come back on, expires in 1 day, 16 hours and 50 minutes. So I got plenty of time to do both of these. If I fly this one, it takes me a couple hours to fly it up, and then I've got something to go do, and then I come back tomorrow, I can fly the leg back, and I don't have any problems with that. So looks good. That is good. That's going to be the jobs we're going to take. So we'll start with the outbound leg. Verify that it is that. I'll accept the job. All right. Now I just click on Fly Now. Fly Now is going to ask me what aircraft I want to use. Of course, I'm going to use my C172 Skyhawk, which is our company plane, the only one we own. And we're going to go ahead now and load the plane up. Now, I can go ahead and come over here to the available load. And since I've got plenty of room on my plane, I don't have to split this up because the load is small enough. About 500 pounds is what I can take fully loaded with fuel and the pilot on there. I can get away with about 650 if I watch how much fuel I put on the plane and everything. But a full load, that'll be fine. I'll put that on there. Then I just want to come down here and make sure that I've got plenty of fuel for the run. I'm going 134 nautical miles. I've got 190 nautical miles of fuel in there. I always like to make sure that I at least have 100 nautical miles over that. So I would have to have at least this much fuel on there. But remembering I've got to come back and fuel is cheaper at my local airport, I'm going to go ahead and put as much fuel on here as I can, as long as I make sure I'm within the right weight limit. So if I look at how much weight I've got on board, I'm looking right here at how much weight I've got on board, and I can go up to 2550. So if I just I should be good right there. I should be able to max out the fuel. All right, cool. All right, so it purchased 204 pounds of fuel. It cost me $182. Trust me, it cost me a lot more if I fueled up somewhere else. So flight plan, now we have to create the flight plan. I like to do my flight plan inside of FSX. It's a lot easier for me just to do it in there. But you could go ahead and click out your flight plan here. The biggest thing you want to do is you got to file something within this program. Just go ahead and make sure that you tell it to start at your last known location at your gate that you're at. Pick out what time you want to do your flight at. Again, I told you could fly this whenever you wanted to. If I wanted to change this and fly it in December, I could fly it in December, but we're going to keep today's current date. The time of the flight, I want to do an early morning flight. We're going to go out at dusk and make our flight out around 5 o'clock in the morning on our flight out, and just enjoy the sunrise. So let's go ahead and set that up for now. Now the initial time in the game is UTC, or Greenwich Mean Time. So I have to remember that I'm 6 hours behind whatever is in the game. So the first thing I want to do is change that to AM. And since I'm 6 hours behind this particular clock here, I need to set it up so that it's, let's see. Well, that would be 4:56 a.m. would be when that would be setting it up for me. And that would be about right for me. That would be putting me at the runway, getting set and doing all my pre-flight and everything at 4 a.m. And then I could be wheels up around 5. It would still be kind of dark outside, but I kind of like that. So I think that's what I'm actually going to do, is go 10:56:36 a.m. To set me into the game, and then I'll mess around with the plane and everything and be wheels up around 5 a.m. So that's what we'll do. All right, so I'm going to accept the route. It's going to go ahead and launch the game, and I'll meet you guys inside Flight Sim. All right, guys, welcome back to Jack Edwards Airport, and our little Cessna 172 sits on the runway here early in the morning. It is quite dark outside, 4:58 in the morning. Let's go ahead and jump inside the plane. You can see it's quite dark in here. We're cold and dark. We need to file our flight plan. So the first thing I want to do is come over to Flight Planner and just go through this. Jack Edwards to Key, which is Kilo Mike Edward India. Go ahead and we're going to go VRR on this. Find route. I want to cruise up to about 8,000 feet for our flight. So we have a nice smooth flight. And it's only going to give me about 4 ways to go, so that's fine. We'll go ahead and select that. It's not going to be a long flight. It's going to be a pretty short one. And we'll go ahead and save that flight plan. Now, here's one thing you want to pay attention to is it says, do you want Flight Simulator to move your aircraft to the departure airport listed on the flight plan? I don't do that. I like to leave it exactly where the plane is because I parked it specifically in a spot, you know, each time. And what you could run into is if you hit yes, it might put you somewhere you don't want to be. Case in point is I flew into an airport the day before yesterday where the runway was 3,000 feet of asphalt just plopped in the middle of a whole bunch of trees. There was hardly any room to maneuver, and basically there was just enough room for the runway and the plane to get down within the runway. There was no roads into it. There was no buildings there, no parking area or anything else like that. It was basically just a runway and some trees. I landed with no problems, but when I went to take my flight out, I accidentally clicked yes on that button, and I ended up getting the plane plopped into a whole bunch of trees, and there was no way to even get back to the runway to take off. So just be careful on that. I typically like to just let it place the plane exactly where I left the plane, and that way I can go from there. The next thing I advise you do is go into aircraft, fuel, and payload, and just verify your fuel and your payload. Make sure that the computer hasn't done something silly, put too much fuel into the plane that you didn't want, or make sure that it doesn't have your load just completely out of balance. Now, again, my load is out of balance right here. My front passenger is 218 pounds, which means this plane's going to want to roll to his side because that puts his side of the plane a little out of balance. I know in the real world you're not going to be able to perfectly balance out your plane, but if you're running cargo, you could. If you're running cargo, you'd weigh each package. You would know exactly how much each one of them is, and you would go ahead and balance this load out. So 108 in the back seat. I could have split some of the additional weight off of this, which there's 48 pounds more on here that I could have put in the back seat. And distributed that weight out there so that the front would have been balanced. So I could take that 48 pounds, split it over the back. So that's 24 pounds per seat that I need to put in back here. So bring up the weight of the back seat by to 132. So if I go ahead and do that again, 604 is what my weight is. So if I go 32 here, 32 here, and then crank that down to 170. There we go. And now my load is now balanced, and the plane will fly nice and easy for us. So that's one thing I advise you do is just make sure, because AH has a way of just throwing stuff in there and not balancing out, and then all of a sudden you'll take off and you'll be rolling all over the place. I am a little bit overweight, but I do plan on burning quite a bit of fuel on the way up, so it's not really going to matter to us. So we're good to go, and yeah, that'll be everything else is balanced out. Now, one more thing I want to tell you guys, a little more trick that you can do if you want to in this. As I told you before, I do own the A2A C172 Cessna. That is the exact same plane as this one. I would rather fly it than fly this one. If I want to do that, I can come up here to aircraft, go to select aircraft, and I can actually load that plane in, and it's not going to affect air handler one bit. Now, I wouldn't come in here and load like a Bombardier or even the Coronado PC-12. I wouldn't come in and load that for a flight that I was supposed to be doing with the C172. But because I do own the A2A Cessna, I would much rather fly it because it's just an overall better aircraft. It's got more interaction. I mean, it's going to fly the same, but it's just got more and more interactivity, more sounds to it. It's just a better overall airplane, and I would rather fly it than fly the stock version of the plane. So I am going to go ahead and load that plane in, and that'll give me the ability to fly it versus the other one. So there, you see, it's basically the same airplane, and I don't view that as a cheat or anything because it's the same aircraft. Now, if I was, like I said, if I was putting in a different aircraft, I wouldn't feel the same about doing that. So that gets us to the point where we can actually get in here and get started. So I'm going to make one little change in my recording software, and then we will get going with getting started. I had a little bit of audio sync the last time I recorded this, so I'm just making a couple of changes to make sure that everything works out right. I've also done my pre-flight check, so the plane is ready to get started and ready to get going. If you haven't ever seen this aircraft from A2A, it's really nice. It has a ton of interactivity with it, including the whole pre-flight check where you can walk around the plane. You can check little things out, like you can go down, make sure that your fuselage is locked up. You can actually go around and it'll give you the ability to check your fuel, make sure that you don't have any water in your fuel. It's all simulation, but it is pretty cool that they give you that ability to do that within it. It just goes that extra mile for you. You also have the ability to, like, if you tear things up, you have to take it over to the maintenance hangar and do things like you can change out if you don't want the fairings on here, you can take them off, you can put them on. You can run the battery down while trying to start this thing. Trust me, I've done it. You can tear things up on the engine and have to actually go in and maintenance them. Every so often you have to service the motor, put plugs in it, put oil in it. It's just a really cool aircraft. It comes from A2A Simulations. And it's like $49 to get it. If you want to take your flight sim to a whole new level, it is something worth looking into. So this plane has a little bit of different startup procedure than the one that we did, the stock version of it. The stock version of it, you pretty much can flip the key on and get it to start. You probably don't even have to prime the fuel pump. But this one does have a few things that you have to make sure are correct. First of all, you got to make sure your fuel shutoff is on, or fuel valve is actually on, and make sure that your fuel select is turned to both. Our parking brake is engaged, all that other stuff I went through when I did my pre-flight check. So now I'm going to get to the startup procedures on this, and you can bring up your pilot's notebook, and it will actually give you the startup procedures here. There's one thing that is wrong in this book, or it's not necessarily wrong, it just seems like it doesn't work now. I had a heck of a time the first time I got this plane trying to get it started. This whole mixture rich, you turn, basically the starting procedure is you turn on your switch, turn on your beacon, you turn on the auxiliary fuel pump, and you push in your mixture knob till you see the fuel flow here on this gauge rise. It takes about, and it says about 3 to 5 seconds. Then you pull the lever out and then turn off your fuel pump, and then you go through the starting procedure on it. If you do that, you're going to flood the motor out. They made a change with version 2.0 of this plane to where you now can flood the motor out, and you have to go through flooded engine procedures to start it. And 3 to 5 seconds I found floods the engine out, and you end up going through like 4 or 5 batteries trying to get the plane started. It's easiest just to do about 1 second on it to get it started. So we'll go ahead and get her started here. We're going to go ahead and turn on our master switches to get batteries on. Other thing I love about this plane is you can go in here and you can adjust the lighting in the cab. So I can turn up my instrument lights a little bit here, and then I can turn my pedestal lights on as well, so I get a little bit of light so I can see what I'm doing. You have the ability to do instrument lights in the other one. They're either full on or not on, and this one you have just so much more finesse and control over. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and turn my beacon on just to let people know, hey, that plane is active. Things are going on around it. So we want to kind of watch out if we go over near it. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this because I know the procedure. But what we want to do is we want to prime our fuel pump. We want to watch this needle right here that it rises up. And once it does, then we know that we're going to do it. So we'll turn on the fuel pump. And I'm just going to push this in and out because I saw it actually move. And that should be good there. And so now at this point, I'm going to crack my throttle about 30%. And then I'll turn the starter over and introduce fuel into the system, and it should start up. So fingers crossed anyways. All right, let's do this. There she goes. Like I said, I had the hardest time getting this thing started when I first bought it, and I thought, man, I'm never going to get this thing to work. And I ended up having to go to the forums and read to find out that, oh yeah, if you run that fuel pump too long, you're going to actually have some issues. So we'll let that go ahead and start warming up the motor. We've got to get it up to temperature before we can get headed out. While we do that, we'll turn our avionics on, let our radios get warming up, let them get going. And we'll get some things set up here in the plane. The camera's going to jump around a little bit. I don't have Easy Dock set up on this plane. I need to get that set up. But periodically I'll zoom in and then I'll lock the camera view so that Track IR doesn't bounce all over the place while I just go through and do settings, and then I'll pull back out and take off the lock, and if the camera jumps around a little bit, it jumps around a little bit. Alright. I'm going to bring up my knee board real quick, look at my briefing here, and it's going to flash over here on screen. I don't know why it does that. It does not like it that much. But I want to look at my pilot's briefing. My arrival runway I'm coming in is ILS 10.1, so I want to know what my ILS is and go ahead and get that plugged in. So I'll come over here and dial that in real quick. I will have ATC as well as my GPS if I have to do any navigation, so the radio stack will be free to do whatever with. That's good. Let's go ahead and contact ATS and go ahead and get approval for our flight. So we'll go ahead and contact Pensacola, request IFR clearance.
Pensacola clearance delivery, Cessna November 727 Fort Hotel, IFR to Meridian, ready to touch. Cessna November 727 Fort Hotel, cleared to Meridian Airport as filed. Climb and maintain 8,000. Departure frequency is 1X0.05, Squawk 0032. Clearance point 30 minutes from now. Cessna November 727 Fort Hotel, cleared at Meridian Airport as filed. Climb and maintain 8,000. Departure is 120.05, Squawk 0032. Clearance point 30 minutes from now. Cessna 7 Fort Hotel, feedback correct.
Alright, cool. So we've got our clearance. Let's go ahead and check our weather. I know we got a little bit of wind this morning.
Automated weather observation 1020 Zulu. Wind 212 at 7. Visibility greater than 20 miles. Sky condition clear. Temperature 30 Celsius. Dew point 21 Celsius. Altimeter 3007.
Got a little bit of crosswind on takeoff.
Alpha automated weather observation 1020 Zulu. Wind 212 at 7. Visibility greater than 20.
Alright, cool. Alrighty, well, just waiting for the temperature on the plane to come up. It's looking pretty good. And let's see what else we need to do real quick before we get started. I'm gonna back this out a little bit. Verify that we're in the takeoff position with our elevator, and go ahead and get our flaps set for takeoff. Go ahead and turn my strobes on. Get some lights on this thing. We're getting ready to take off. I think we're just about set up. Alright, so we're going to be taking off to the west on runway 27. I'm going to go ahead and set my heading bug up on that. We do have a little bit of wind coming out, so we'll have a little bit of a crosswind to fight. But it's not much, it's just 7 knots, so should be alright. Let's go ahead and select our runway for takeoff on 27. And let's go ahead and get set. We'll go ahead and do our engine run up, check our magnetos, and then we should be ready to go. Alright, so on the engine run up, I want to run the engine up to about 1800 RPM. And then I want to turn my key, watch for that drop. Yep, I got the drop. Good to go. Check my fuel pressures, engine temperature, vacuum, amperage. Everything is green. Everything looks good. So we'll go ahead and pull the engine back. And we'll go ahead and announce taxi, and then we'll get going. Oops. Little mistake there on my part. Hit the wrong button. Alright, so announce taxi.
Juliet, Kilo Alpha, traffic, Cessna, November 727, Fort Hotel is taxiing to runway 27.
Alright, and with that, we'll go ahead and take our brake off, start our pushback procedure. We have a long taxi. So since we are taking off to the west and we are on the west end of the airport, we got to run all the way down the taxiway to get to the other end. So I may end up breaking this video into a couple of pieces. I noticed I did a test run yesterday when I did that, and again I had some audio sync issues where I ended up just throwing the recording away. But it ended up being a quite long recording. I mean, this flight's going to be in about an hour and 15 minutes, but still, even so, I may end up with having to do a little bit of creative editing to make sure that everything is in a timely manner. So I might break it up into a couple of episodes. Maybe like we get up into the air and get going, and then edit, and then come back and do the landing in a separate episode. So might be something that we end up doing. If this thing's gonna turn me or not. It doesn't look like it's going to. So we'll go ahead and just end our pushback here. Go ahead and give ourselves a little throttle. Start rotating ourselves around. A little bit of clouds in the sky. I'm using the default weather from the game. Nothing fancy. Just using that. It updates every 15 minutes. I am thinking about putting Active Sky Next in to have that. As I get back into flying, I'll start adding more and more add-ins or mods into the game, or add-ons into the game. Things like Active Sky Next. Looking at putting Vox ATC in, doing my own ATC instead of using the in-game stuff, just to give it that little bit more realism. But for now, it's one of those walk before you run things. I'm getting back into the game and getting used to it, and then going from there. A little lights floating in midair there. All right. Well, we're on our way to making some more money. What it's all about, right? Making that cheddar. Our little passengers in the back of it. It's funny, this plane, now in the other plane, the stock version, I can load the cargo in and the cargo is just numbers and empty seats. In this particular plane though, I actually have to put people in the seats and give them a weight value for the cargo, and they don't actually put cargo in the plane, you know. Let's get back on center line here. Cut our engine back a little bit. We are kind of booking along the taxiway, and we're coming up to the end of it anyways. Pretty quick here. First turnouts right there. So we're almost to the very end. And then we'll announce our tent to fly straight out and get this thing going. So I know I cover a lot in the beginning of this, you know, as far as talking about different things. Most of my videos end up being more of a tutorial than just gameplay. So if you're watching this for the first time, you're like, man, dude took forever just to get up into the air. It is because I do tend to cover a lot of things, you know, more for informative purposes for other people to learn off of my mistakes and to learn off of my experiences. So, oops, a little too much brake there. And again, keep in mind, guys, I'm not using the best controls in the world. I've actually changed over to flying off of a joystick from the game controller that I was using, because I want to see how it feels to use a joystick to fly with versus a yoke. Because I'm considering buying a HOTAS to use to play for like Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous, and I would use it for Flight Sim as well, but I don't know, you know, that way I get the most out of my money. But at the same time, I'm considering maybe using maybe just buying the yoke instead, and then come back and getting the HOTAS at a later date. So it's which one's going to be more effective for flying. So if I'm getting used to the joystick, but it's still not that good of a thing. I need rudder and pedals and all that good stuff, rudder pedals, and I need some sort of throttle quadrants, the biggest thing that I need. Alright, so let's go ahead, just verify everything is set, ready to go one time. Make sure our heading bug is set. That is set. So it's basically to the point of, at this point, getting going. So let's go ahead and announce our intent to take off
and then we will get going. So announce runway 4 straight out.
Kilo Alpha traffic, Cessna November 727 Fort Hotel, taking off runway 27, departing straight out.
All right, that is done. Let's do this. Break off. Remember, we got a little bit of a crosswind that we're going to fight taking off. Shouldn't be too much though, it's only 7 knots. "5:30 in the morning for us getting out of here." All right, real quick, I'm going to change one more thing. I want to just go ahead and get my flight timer started. There we go. All right, well, here we go, guys. Wish me luck. Hopefully I don't crash or have any real issues along the way. Alright, plane's active, and we're up. Alrighty. Get a little bit of altitude here, and I'll get the plane stabilized, and then we'll contact ATC and get going from there. Now there's two schools of thoughts on this. Some people like to fly the whole time. Others like to get on the autopilot as soon as possible. I sort of want to just get the plane up, get it stabilized, have it under my control for a little bit, and then once I get all of that taken care of, get my rate of climb set and all that good stuff, then I'll turn it over to the autopilot and go from there. That's sort of the way I do everything. It's a little tough to get this plane balanced and get my elevation like trimmed out just because of the setup I have. I'm using buttons, having to click a button a million times to get my elevation to set. I find it hard to get the plane trimmed out all the time. Just about got it where I'm at about 500 feet per minute. Come on, plane. Don't drift up on me.
And another thing I think I have issues with is just my joystick is really sensitive and really finicky, and it seems like the least little touch makes it just go wonkers. So I don't have a whole lot of finesse with it. There we go. Back on course. My wings leveled out. See if I can get that elevation to just trim out to about somewhere between 300 to 500 feet per minute. I think we're all right there. A little bit of wing tilt. Alright, contact air traffic control.
Sherman, departure, Cessna, November 727, Fort Hotel, descent 2000, climbing 8000. Cessna, November 727, Fort Hotel, Sherman, departure, Roger, altimeter 3006. Cessna, 7 Fort Hotel, turn right, heading 345, climb and maintain 8000.
Alright, so we're going to climb right. Turn right to 345 and climb to 8,000.
Cessna 7 Fort Hotel, please acknowledge.
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Heading 345, climb and maintain 8000. Cessna 7 Fort Hotel.
Oop, losing airspeed.
Cessna 7 Fort Hotel, contact Mobile approach on 118.5. 118.5, Cessna 7 Fort Hotel.
Alright,
Mobile approach. Cessna
contact
November
mobile approach.
7 Fort Hotel is climbing through 2,900 for 8,000. Cessna November 727 Fort Hotel, mobile approach. Roger. Altimeter 3006.
Alright, looks good. We're climbing. We'll put a little more power into the engine. And we're pretty much under control now. No real issues so far. Alright. Get back on my heading a little bit here. I'm going to trim the nose down just a little bit. Decrease my rate of climb so I can get some airspeed. I am pretty heavy on this flight, so take it slow climbing just to be safe. ATC doesn't always like that. They want to call you and go, expedite your climb to 8,000 feet. And it's like, well, I can only go so fast. Need to go ahead and trim out my motor a little bit now that I'm got a few thousand feet going. Need to lean out my mixture. Yeah, that's one reason I want to get some better controls too, is because I have to take my hand off the joystick to do the littlest things in the cabin. And whereas if I had a HOTAS, I'd have a set of controls to my right, my joystick to the left, or vice versa, and I'd be able to control the plane and dial in mixture and things of that nature without having to take my hand off the joystick. So another reason I'm looking at upgrading controls. Alright, at this point we're pretty stable, and we're gaining altitude. I can go ahead and, in interest of being able to look around, I'm going to go ahead and set my autopilot up, get my heading in there, and then we'll go ahead and look over here real quick. Arm it and set our rate of climb for 3,000. Or for 300 feet per minute. And we should be pretty good. But now we can just sit back and sort of relax for a little bit, look around, see what we got going on. And again, he's his own on how he flies his plane. Some people I know like to start, like as soon as they get out of the runway, they throw it on the autopilot. Other people I know like to just fly the whole entire time by hand. It's a challenge for them. All right, so we're going to turn left to 320. Freeze that real quick so I can actually look and see what I'm doing. Track IR has a habit of wiggling around while I'm trying to set up my knobs and everything, and it can be quite the challenge to dial some things in with Track IR moving around. So I set up a pause on my joystick so that I can pause Track IR anytime I need to. Get a look around, see where we're at. Check out our plane in flight. That is basically Fairhope and Daphne underneath us right now. All those lights down there, that's Fairhope Daphne. And the Mobile Bay up in front of us. As we head out. Very cool. All right, so this flight's going to last about 2 hours. So I will edit a little bit of it out. If I can get this down to a 1 hour episode, it'll be one episode. But if it's really long, I'll make it into two. So periodically, we'll have a little bit of cuts. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next edit. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you consider giving it a like, maybe even sharing it with your friends. It does help me out a tremendous amount and is greatly appreciated. Also, leave some comments down below. That's really the only way I can gauge if you guys are enjoying what's being put out. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want daily notifications. I try to do a new video each and every day. Also, if you want to stay in touch with me and find out what's going on, our social links are down in the bottom left-hand corner. Twitter is where I usually announce schedule changes, live streams, and new video releases. Facebook's a great way to get in touch with me if you have any questions to ask. And of course, I am trying to get to 1,000 followers on Google+, which I know I'll probably be old and gray before that happens. But if you can jump over there and follow me, it would be super awesome. So if you like today's video, there's a whole lot more content on the channel. I hope you'll browse through it, find something to keep yourself entertained until the next video or live stream. Speaking of live streams, I try to do them nightly around 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until the next time, thanks again for watching. See you soon.